Welcome everyone to my review of the DC Multiverse Mcfarlane Toys The Batman, which is the most anticipated film of the year. And today I have a unboxing and review of two of the box sets I picked up, the Bruce Wayne figure as well as the Drifter motorcycle. So Mcfarlane Toys of course gained the rights to make DC figures in 2020. So when it comes to a new film, new release, they are one of the first companies to have license to release a batch of figures. Me personally, in my collection, I prefer smaller scale figures. That is why I'm not the biggest fan of the Mcfarlane Toys size. But I think some of their figures have been great and the prices are really reasonable. For the Batman in particular, since no company has released any of their figures yet, I've decided to try out the Mcfarlane Toys. And I want to say that when they do eventually release the Batman figure for Mafex or SH Figure Arts, I will go for that instead of the Mcfarlane Toys, who of course do have a wave of figures already with Batman, Catwoman, Penguin, the Riddler. There's also another Bruce Wayne without the mask. I went for the one with the mask because I think it has more of that vigilante look and it just looks cooler, so that is why I went for this one. There's also a Batmobile, but right now I'm going to go for the Drifter motorcycle as it pairs up well with this Bruce Wayne figure. So this is standard Mcfarlane Toys box, which is quite big compared to say your Hasbro Marvel Legends, as the prices are similar, but when it comes to sizing, Mcfarlane Toys have made their figures a lot larger. And it has the logo at the front, and then on the side we have all the titles. Nothing too special, but the back is what I actually really like. I've got to give it to Mcfarlane Toys for putting this artwork out, and it's basically a picture of the figure with the bike, so you can see that they're trying to promote the two together, and I assume that most people who go for this figure will probably want to pick up the Drifter motorcycle as well. So let's unbox the Bruce Wayne figure and take a look inside. So now I've taken all the items out of the box and I'm going to go through them one by one, starting off with the collectible card, which is something you should be familiar with in all the DC Mcfarlane Toys. It's the same picture as the one on the back of the box. It is Bruce Wayne with the Drifter bike, and then on the back we have the data file, real name Bruce Wayne, and then in the guise of the Drifter, Bruce Wayne is able to infuriate the crowds of Gotham City at ground level without revealing his true identity. So very interesting, and these cards are pretty nice to have if you have more of the Mcfarlane Toys. And then we also have the bag, the backpack that he will be carrying with him, and this is like a rubber material. It is pretty solid in the middle as well, and obviously this will look better when you put it on Bruce Wayne. And then we also have a base stand, which is something they include in all their figures. So now we can take a look at Bruce Wayne himself. This is a very interesting look. Obviously the film will dive into the real origins of Bruce Wayne, a much younger Bruce Wayne, and I believe this look is him before he has this suit and he's going out on the hunt for criminals and investigating, because this has a really realistic vigilante look to it. So obviously from top to bottom we have the rough long hair, and then the eyeshadow makeup, and then the black mask. Inside he's wearing a black hoodie and then the bomber jacket with a zip, and then under it looks like a kind of shirt which is probably the black hoodie, and he's also wearing a grey kind of combats and then white gloves as well. So I actually do really like this look of Bruce Wayne. It has this really casual rough look to him, and he doesn't really care about his image, and he's just going out and hunting down criminals. But I'm going to start off with the articulation. So Mcfarlane Toys on the box, it does say 22 points, so let's see how many we can do. So obviously the head with left to right, no movement downwards or upwards, so it's just kind of limited. And then for the arms, stretch sideways, and then they go obviously forwards, upwards, backwards. There's also a nice rotation here, and then inwards slightly. And then for the torso body, not much movement, it's really stiff. The body, the jacket is a really solid piece, but you can obviously turn the waist side to side and actually rotate if you want. And then there's also a crunch forwards and upwards, and then for the legs they stretch and then they kick forwards, backwards. There's a thigh swivel, as you can see with the parts, pretty solid. And then we have the knee bend, and normally out of the box these two actually take a bit more effort. And then for the foot itself, there's rotation left and right, and there's also a toe hinge. So really basic articulation, but it's actually pretty decent. And I think for this Bruce Wayne, he would look good in a bit of articulation because he needs to go on the bike. So yeah, it's pretty nice to play around with the articulation and get him in some really cool fighting poses maybe later on. So yeah, so far so good in terms of the first impressions. So I've now put on the accessory backpack on the Bruce Wayne figure just to give him that complete look. It will be interesting to see some of the scenes. I'm guessing this bag is for him to carry his daily essentials or his weapons possibly, and this basically explains Bruce Wayne is out on a hunt and he's not afraid to maybe stay out for days and basically just to get the job done. And also put on the base, which is something that Mcfarlane always include in their DC figures, just to give the figure a bit more better display, but it's more to do with just to get the figure standing, because I noticed a lot of their figures don't stand that well, so you definitely want to have the base with this figure. So now we can move on with the Drifter motorcycle, and then we'll pair it up with the Bruce Wayne figure. So I've now taken the Drifter motorcycle out of its packaging, and just like the figures, it also includes a collectible card, and this one is a different image to the Bruce Wayne version. As you can see, this is Bruce Wayne in action. This is more of a standing pose. And then we can take a look at the data file. It says real name the Drifter bike. When traversing the streets of Gotham as the Drifter, Bruce Wayne uses the Drifter bike, a modified cafe racer, for optimum speed with minimal flair. So really excited to see how many scenes we'll get with this bike. I know that most people will probably be interested in his Batmobile instead, and also his Batcycle, is that what you call it? And this one is probably less in demand, but of course if you pick up the Bruce Wayne figure, this one probably fits it a bit more. And obviously it's meant to be like a really casual bike, and what I like about this is you can use this for other figures. It doesn't have to be the Bruce Wayne or Batman figure, and it'll probably still work. So a really nice touch from Mcfarlane is to include a helmet, which is for Bruce Wayne, and it also hints that he pretty much doesn't care with all the battle damaged kind of parts, all the scratches on the helmet. Despite all the money he has, he's going to be continuing with his life. And then inside, I thought you could put the helmet over Bruce Wayne's head, but it looks as though you're going to have to interchange the head sculpt with this. So we'll do that later on. And then now we can focus on the Drifter bike itself. A really nice piece. Mcfarlane have done an amazing job with this. It's currently on the stand because it stands better like this, and yeah, I really like it. And you can see, just like the helmet, it has all the kind of damaged parts, which again explains Bruce Wayne's going to go through a lot of action, a lot of damage, and he pretty much won't change it. And again, there's also a small detail here. There's a line over the light, so I'm guessing that's meant to be a smashed light. And then on the other side there's more scratches, and also towards the back as well. And then the wheel does actually spin, and basically it's a pretty solid piece. So I think the next thing would be to pair up Bruce Wayne with this bike and then see how it looks. So here is the Bruce Wayne figure with the Drifter motorcycle, and I think together it makes a great display. It will definitely be eye-catching in a collection of figures, and you have to play around with the articulation first before you get him on the bike, but as you can see, it looks pretty awesome. So you definitely need to stand for it to actually stand properly, and once you do that, you can see it has an amazing kind of display. Right now I have kind of Bruce Wayne looking to the side. He's kind of stopped his bike, but obviously you can play around with it and get him on like a riding type of look. And now we have the second look, which is Bruce Wayne riding the actual motorcycle. Of course, I probably haven't got the articulation perfect. You can see he's kind of not sitting down, but you can kind of get an idea of what it would look like. And again, I think this would make a really nice display as a alternative look. Alternatively, of course, you can have Bruce Wayne standing there with the bike in the background. So now let's test out the helmet on Bruce Wayne, and of course it doesn't fit on top because you do have to remove the head sculpt, which I'm going to do now. And then we have the helmet, and it basically fits on perfectly. And again, this will be a certain look in the film. Probably not going to use this as my main display unless you just don't want the Bruce Wayne head sculpt and you just want like a biker. But I think having this would also look pretty cool, and I'm pretty sure some important scenes will actually have this kind of look. But I'm guessing most people would probably want to use the Bruce Wayne head sculpt. So now let's take a look at the side-by-side comparisons with the Mcfarlane Toys Justice League Batman and Superman, the Mcfarlane Toys Justice League Flash and Cyborg, Mcfarlane Toys Justice League Aquaman and Wonder Woman 84 Wonder Woman. Also next to the SH Figuarts Justice League Batman and Wonder Woman. Next to the Mafex Justice League Bruce Wayne and the Dark Knight Joker. And here it is next to the MEZCO Dawn of Justice Batman and the DC Collectibles DC Films Dawn of Justice Armored Batman. So now for some final thoughts on the Bruce Wayne and Drifter motorcycle by Mcfarlane Toys. It is what I expected in terms of the sculpt, articulation, accessories. It's definitely a unique look of Bruce Wayne and one I look forward to seeing in the movie, as it's something a lot different to the previous films. And you definitely have to pair them up together for a better display, especially with the figure on the bike. The only thing is probably the articulation isn't as smooth for it to sit well on the Drifter, and the bike itself doesn't stand so well without the base. Apart from that, I think most people's thoughts would be to include a alternative head sculpt instead of needing to buy both the figures, one without the mask, and maybe even one where the hoodie is over the head. So overall it's a 7 out of 10, super reasonable price, and it's something we may not see from other companies. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment and subscribe, and stay tuned for more DC and Marvel figure related content. Thanks for watching and hope to see you next time.